Bets live stream. My name is Rob Dauster. That gentleman you see on the other side of me is the one and only Jeffrey Goodman. Jeff, what's going on, man? How we doing today?
Oh, good, man. Like, we got games, like 4 games. I'm excited, excited to break them down again. And I don't know, just excited to have 4 games. It's like 70 degrees here in Indy. So my goal is when we are done with this, I'm going to get out, take a walk downtown, see what the atmosphere is like in downtown Indy right now, Rob.
Where are the games today, and which games are you going to?
So I got the go-ahead, the big go-ahead. Remember how Warlock held the man down and he wouldn't let the man go to 8 games the other day? Well, he's allowed the man to go to all 4 games today. So I'm excited. Now, I don't know how I'm going to pull it off.
Where are they?
So Bankers Life and Hinkle, it's probably about in and out like 20 minutes of a drive. You got to park in a garage right near Bankers Life. Run to the garage. It's right across the street. Drive to Hinkle. It's probably 15, 20-minute drive. Park in a garage at Hinkle. Check in. It's a little bit of a process. So my thought was, here's what I'm going to end up doing today. I don't want to bore you, but I probably already have. So I'm going to go Oregon State Loyola, obviously. And then as soon as that game is kind of over, I will jump in my car and run and go to Villanova Baylor. Probably end up missing the first, I don't know, usually you get there like the 12-minute mark. If I leave at the end of the Oregon State Loyola game, I bet I'll miss the first like 8 or 10 minutes. Same thing, Villanova Baylor. If the game's out of hand, I'll get out and go to Oral Roberts, Arkansas. If it's not, I'll wait till the very end and miss the first 10 minutes. Same thing with Syracuse, Houston. They're back and forth. Each one is back and forth. So it starts Bankers Life, Hinkle, Bankers Life, Hinkle.
Not bad. Not bad. It would have been a lot easier for you if they just would have done Baker's Life, Hinkle, Hinkle. But I'm guessing that they want to be able to sanitize everything and keep everything spread out.
They clear everybody out. They clear even media. I don't know if they'll do it today, but you're supposed to leave and come back. And even you have a different wristband with a different seat assignment on it for the next game in Hinkle. So, it'll be fun. I mean, listen, nobody's ever done 4 Sweet 16 games in a day because you can't. You can't be in 2 cities on the same day. So I figured, you know what? If Warlock would let me do it, I'm going to do it today and tomorrow.
Perfect. All right. So before we get into the actual games and kind of break down the lines, I do just want to go over the news that broke yesterday after we got off of the stream. Yeah. Shaka Smart left Texas to take the Marquette job. Wasn't the most surprising thing in the world. That was kind of there was a little bit of scuttle that was the way that it was heading. So what is your take on it? Do you think it was the right decision for him to make a move? Give me all the insight that you have.
I mean, it's easy, okay? Like, it's a win-win for both sides. Like, Texas wanted to fire him 2 years ago, but they couldn't because his buyout was too much. And Shaka needed a change of scenery. And I think Shaka is fortunate. I think we would both agree with that. When you don't win a tournament game in 6 years at a place, I don't know what Texas is. I'd say like a top, I don't know, 25, 30 job in America, probably something like that. I mean, there is some.
I think it's a little higher than that.
The fans just don't care. That's why it's that low. Other than Matthew McConaughey, like, most fans don't care.
I could, and not to start this debate, but I could make the argument that the fans not caring is part of the reason that makes the job more appealing. You live in Austin, you have the Texas recruiting base, you don't have pressure, you can survive for 6 years without winning a tournament game. There's the quality of life aspects of it are pretty high. You have you can make all the money in the world, and you don't have the pressure or the stresses of coaching at other jobs. So that's just the argument that I would make for it. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel like if you're Marquette, and I haven't been able to confirm this, but I've heard that Porter didn't really want it or didn't want to move this quickly, and Marquette just made a move with Shaka. And I understand if Shaka's got a name, and he did take, he took VCU from the first 4 to the Final Four. That was in 2011. He hasn't got out of the first weekend since that, right? Like he's never won a regular season title. And I'm happy for Shaka. Shaka's a good dude. I'm happy for him. I just wouldn't have made this hire if I was Marquette. I would have probably waited for Porter, tried to convince him. It's hard in the middle of a tournament run too to try to get a guy to lock into another job. But I think he fit a little bit better. And ultimately, again, I think it's a win for both sides as long as Texas gets Chris Beard. I mean, like Beard, just imagine this, Rob, just imagine this. Chris Beard with Shaka Smart's roster this past season.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be really, really good. The big thing is going to be there's a couple things that I'm worried about with Beard at Texas and Shaka at Marquette. The first thing I would say is this, that I think that it makes more sense for Shaka to be at a place where you have to build some continuity and build and develop a culture and a program, because I think that's Shaka's biggest strength is two things. One, coaching defense, and it's not just the havoc and the pressure stuff. He's really, really good at coaching like half-court defense. Go back and look at what Texas has done over the years while he was there defensively. He's a very good defensive coach, and he's really good at developing culture. We saw that at VCU. We saw it this year at Texas. I think that being at a place where he's not going to be recruiting just one and dones, and he's not going to have to put such a priority on trying to get the Greg Browns and the Mo Bambas and the Jared Allens and the players of that ilk is going to be something that's better for him. Because if you look at what he does best, it's building that culture, building that family atmosphere, and having guys that are there for 3-4 years. And the bigger thing is, if you're building a defensive basketball program, you want to have older guys that are bigger and stronger and more physical. That's part of the reason why VCU was that successful as it was during his tenure. I also think that it's probably a little bit easier to win in the Big East than it is to win in the Big 12. So I get it. It makes sense. I don't think –
listen, he knew. I mean, he knew the deal. Like, if you're Shaka, you know that you're going to be in the hot seat next year because you lost to Abilene Christian. So get a new 5-year start pretty much.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it was.
It's
because
no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Like,
For him, it's the ultimate no-brainer. For Texas, it was a little bit of a probably a decision on their part, right? Like, and really, they kind of made their decision. Like, Shaka knew what the deal was. So, like, this was such a no-brainer on every level. And I think Texas, honestly, was ecstatic that it happened. And they might have even told Chris Del Conte, might have even told Shaka Smart after the Abilene Christian game, hey, you know what? Go. Listen, here's the deal. We like you. You're a good guy and all that. But why don't you go and try to get Marquette? Try to get something else. I think it's best for all of them. It worked.
No, I 100% agree. I think if you're Texas, the obvious answer here is going to be Chris Beard. I mean, for all the do we need to list the reasons he graduated from there? He was a manager under Tom Penders when he was there. He's like Texas through and through. I think the decision is basically going to come down to, for him, does he want it or does he not want it? And is it more important for him to be at a place where he's closer to family, or to be at a place that I'm sure you've heard the same thing, that he's told people that this is his dream job. So at the end of the day, I think it really just comes down to whether or not he wants it, right? It's going to come down to his decision. I think it makes sense for both sides. Is this the right time for him to go and take it? I don't know. If I was him, it'd be it's very hard to put yourself in the position.
I don't think it's that hard. Here's why. Again,
no. I'm not saying it's a hard decision to take it. I'm saying it's hard for us to put ourselves in the shoes of Chris Beard when he's making a decision that isn't entirely about basketball itself. You know what I'm saying? Like, part of the reason is like he's got his daughters near him when he's in Lubbock, and there are people where that matters more than being at the perfect job. So I think
he can get a private plane. He'll make enough money. He can buy a damn private plane and get his daughters.
Yeah, I was going to say my gut says he ends up taking it, which is a good thing for the University of Texas.
Yeah, I think the biggest question is Beard definitely the guy from Chris Del Conte's perspective? Remember, we thought like UCLA would ultimately go after Beard before they hired Mick Cronin. We thought that Indiana would go after Beard. So that'll be kind of a question. Well,
why would I know you don't?
I'm with you.
Answers, but it's like I don't.
This. Right. We don't know why Indiana didn't go after Chris Beard. I said this to you, I think yesterday, the day before. There's something floating around that is hurting Chris Beard with some of these jobs. I don't know what it is. I don't understand it. You know how I feel about Chris Beard. I think he's – I talked to Kevin Durant yesterday about it. Kevin Durant wants like Royale Ivy. And he said, I want it in the family. I said, well, you know Chris Beard like went to school at Texas, right? I know he's not like part of your Texas family, the NBA Texas family. But this guy did go to Texas, and I think that's why ultimately Chris Beard takes the job if it's offered to him with the right terms. It's, you know, he was a student at Texas, and he understands too. Like in Lubbock, it's difficult to get some of these. He's done it. He got him an McDonald's All-American, Amari Burnett, but it's difficult to get those guys. Where at Texas, it's a whole lot easier to be able to fight for a top 25 recruit, for the top transfers. He's been able to do it only because of his success in Lubbock, but can you continue that success and have a chance to win national titles? That's what drives Chris Beard. He wants to win national titles. And I think in his mind, ultimately the decision will come down to it's going to be easier for me to be able to accomplish that at Texas than it is at Texas Tech.
Yeah, and this also brings up a little bit of a point that I made about Indiana in a column I wrote yesterday, in that when Marquette fired Wojo, they had a very clear plan for what they wanted to do. They were going to go after Porter Moser, and if they couldn't lock something down quickly, Porter Moser, they had a fallback plan with Shaka Smart. Now, honestly, I don't even know if Shaka was necessarily the fallback plan, but they had two very clear targets that were both pretty easily attainable for them to be able to get, right? Whereas Indiana's plan was we're going to fire Archie, and then we don't really know. It's been 11 days. The only info that we've really gotten out of it is like there's been rumors about a bunch of former IU guys, and then they've tried to get Brad Stevens and they've tried to get Chris Holtman. And to me, if you're going to pull the trigger on Archie and you're going to make that decision when you make it, you have to have something better in place, knowing the day and age and knowing that fan base that you have, because all that's going to happen is people are just going to start getting more and more anxious and more freaked out and more worried about what the next step is going to be. So I don't necessarily think that Indiana was wrong for firing Archie. I don't even blame Indiana fans for having a certain level of expectations for their program. Like you should, if you are, you should want your team to be great, especially if you're Indiana, right? Yeah. Indiana basketball, the history and tradition. So I don't blame them for it. And look, I'm personally a believer that if you realize you've made the wrong hire, ripping off the Band-Aid and starting over sooner rather than later is probably the best thing to do. And I think it was pretty clear that like Archie, it just wasn't working at Indiana. So I don't think the only issue that I have with the entire process is that they made that decision and they didn't have a clear plan for what they were going to do. Because if they did, then Chris Beard wouldn't be like would already have said no, would already have had like that already would have happened. They were already gone down that path. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Just it seems like they're kind of flying by the.
No, they're trying to. Yeah, I mean, listen, they went after Chris Holtman. He didn't take it, and I know all the Indiana fans are thinking. It was amazing on Twitter yesterday when I tweeted out and Greg Doyle, and there's probably nobody more plugged in Indiana than Greg Doyle. And then Jeff Rabjohns basically said Scott Dolson has not reached out to Chris Holtman. And I'm like, you know how many job searches I've done, Rob, in my career? You know how many I've had to cover probably? And how many I've probably broken? Like, I think I know how this shit works. And it works that often the reason that so many of them hire search firms is for plausible deniability. So if anybody asks and says, well, Scott Dolson, did you ever talk to Chris Holtman? Now, he didn't hire a search firm, but you can have it through your senior associate AD. You can have it through one of your buddies who's an AD, whatever it is, reach out and do all the work. So you can say, no, I never talked to Chris Holtman. Because at Indiana, they can't swing and keep missing. Right? Then it looks like a clown show. And Scott Dolson knows how that looks for him. So he's got to try to go under the radar, especially when you're pursuing a fellow Big Ten coach. You got to be careful there. Mm-hmm. So I think ultimately, that's how this shit works. It works with search firms. providing cover generally. That's why they're hired. They're not hired for the background checks for the most part. They're hired for cover. And that's what happened here. So any Indiana fans who actually believe that nobody from Indiana reached out to nobody from Chris Holtman's camp and pursued him is naive and out of their mind. It happened.
Yeah, it happened. I think the best way to phrase it is just, the sources that you will trust, and I'm going to go ahead and trust what you have to say, and I'm going to trust what Greg
Doyle. I love
Doyle
Jeff Rabjohns, and let me say that I love Rabby. He's one of the people I absolutely love in this business and have known him forever. But I think it's semantics the way he wrote it. I'll say that. He's not wrong. Scott Dolson never reached out to Chris Holtman or his camp. He's right. He's right about that. There are plenty of other people that work with Scott Dolson or that he knows that could have reached out and said, hey, we really want Chris Holtman. We really want – he's our guy. That's how it happened.
All right. Before we get into today's slate, Goodman, we have one question in the chat that I want you to answer.
Yeah, what do we got?
Look at the screen. Look at the screen.
Oh, Jokic for Indiana.
Let's move on to today's slate.
He probably thinks he is.
Yeah, let's move on to today's slate and kind
did
of
you like my before we move on to that? Did you take a look at my top 10 craziest Twitter fan bases? I'm gonna do that. That's gonna be like a running thing for me. I like it. Like, you got any problems with it?
No.
Indiana moved way up. Kentucky, I think, is unreachable. I think they're clearly number one. I'm not sure anybody can ever catch Kentucky. NC State, not a close second, but they're second. I think they're firmly entrenched. Indiana moves up this past week. I mean, from off the board to number 3 overall. And Illinois, Michigan. You got some Virginia this year? You would have Virginia probably even higher, maybe?
Virginia. Wisconsin needs to be on that list. I think Marquette does need to be on the list. Although Marquette needs to be on the list. Syracuse fans need to be on the list. We've had one of them on the show.
It's who you pissed off. A lot of it is who you pissed off, and I really haven't pissed off Syracuse in a long time. I haven't pissed off Marquette in a long time. Like, there's just certain fan bases that I've actually been okay with for the last few years.
All right, can we talk about today's games now? Are we allowed
let's
to
do it? Let's do it.
Do you have any other lists that you need to go over?
No,
do you have any more schedules? Do you want to tell us more about your schedule? Do you want to let us know where you're going to go eat lunch today? Like the pizza you got last night?
What did, actually, I still get some.
Oh God, why did I even mention it? All right, so
I still got some good fellas. You want to see?
Not bad. How was it?
It's good. I still get some half of it left. I might bring it with me to the games today.
Oh my God. All right. So Oregon State tips off against Loyola Chicago at 2:40 today. It's the first game of the day. That line is Loyola -7. That total is 125. Jeffrey, what do you like there?
What are we at? Loyola, the first game. I like Loyola. Yep. I just think Oregon State has played their ass off lately and really shot the hell out of the ball the last 4 or 5 games. I think they're shooting, I don't know, out of their minds. I don't know what the numbers are. 45%. I think 45% from 3 over the last couple games here. Limiting their opponents to 31% from the field. They've been awesome in the tournament. I think Loyola's defense has traveled. It's been great, not just this year, but for years now. I think Oregon State's run ends here. I think it ends here.
Yeah, I do too.
Sean, quick thought, because Sean's killing me in the chat here. And you're right, Sean. You're absolutely right. I didn't think Juwan Howard was going to be great. I didn't, and we've been through this a little bit. Juwan Howard, to me, again, is the outlier. The outlier among former NBA players who's made $100 million. He's done a great job. He brought in a great staff, and that was a big part of it. He also inherited a really good point guard in Xavier Simpson and a solid big man in John Teskey, and he's got the Michigan brand. So he's a little different. I was absolutely wrong, but I think Ed Cooley would have done a good job there too. Anyway, sorry, Rob.
Are you done?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
Oh, man. All right. So here's the thing. I expect this to be a really, really low-scoring game. Both of these teams play at a pace that ranks outside the top 300. Both of them have an average offensive length of possession that's outside the top 300. Both of those stats are via KenPom. And Loyola is a very, very, very good defensive team. And while Oregon State is not as good, they do have the pieces to be able to kind of slow down the things that Loyola want. Like Loyola doesn't have great one-on-one players. They beat you with their system. And their system is very often like getting Cameron the ball in the high post, letting him make passes, running them out off of running people off of DHOs involving him. Like all their offense runs through Krutwig. So
Yep.
it's not like this. Neither of these teams are going to run you off the floor. So I think the under is very much in play. And that kind of makes me want to be on Oregon State in this spot because I think 7 points in a game that I expect to be played in the 50s is a lot of points. So I'll be on the under here. I probably lean towards Oregon State, but I don't think that I'm going to end up touching the line in this one. But I think the under is the play. And at Bet Rivers right now, the total is 125.
Wow. Boy.
It's low. It's low, I know.
Yeah, you think? I don't know if I love that. But, I would go Loyola Chicago here. But you're right. I mean, it could be one of those games where, Oregon State keeps it close. I just think as long as, like, Loyola's making enough shots, and I think Braden Norris is going to be huge for that. Like, can he make threes? Because Krutwig, I think, will be able to score in the post. He's just so hard to guard, man. Like, you can't speed him up. I mean, if you saw him down the YMCA, you wouldn't be surprised at all. Like, you'd be like, honestly, if you're picking guys down the YMCA, you might not even pick Krut number one.
Mm-hmm. Well, he is 6'8", so that's probably why you would take him number one. But
exactly.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
very true.
So I know, and look, everyone in the chat is saying that's a low number. Yes, I know that's a very low number, but
so low.
But I think this game's gonna get played in the 50s. I do not expect to see a lot of scoring. Remember when we saw Loyola play Illinois, who is miles better than Oregon State offensively, that has all Americans, and that game and Illinois wants to play fast, and that game ended up at with a total of 129. So it's, you take out some of the factor of pace, and you take out some of the factor that Illinois can actually play. Like I don't know. I think the under is the play there. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It is what it is. All right. Next up, we have Villanova and Baylor. Baylor is laying 7.5. The total there is 142. That game tips off at 5:15. Jeffrey, what do you like there?
I really like Baylor. I've said this all week. I just think this is one that, Villanova was so good from three against North Texas. They've got good players, but I just think eventually you get exposed without a high level point guard. I know they can run their stuff through Jeremiah Robinson Earl, and he is awesome. Absolutely awesome in every way. I think he needs to be more aggressive in this game. But again, what Baylor can do with Jeremiah Robinson Earl is they can throw completely different looks at him with bigs, right? They can throw flow at him. They got Everyday John. And then I think the best matchup for him, if I'm Scott Drew, is how long does it take before you go with Mark Vital and just say, hey, man, just beast this dude. Just beast him, provide toughness. And again, Vital's so strong and so quick and so athletic. We've seen it. Like Mark Vital at his best, Rob, might be – I mean, he's a top 3 defensive player, right? Top 3.
Yeah, and he's also a really bad matchup for Jeremiah Robinson Earl in this spot because I think where Villanova's been running their offense, been running Jeremiah Robinson Earl, their offense through Jeremiah Robinson Earl, is kind of in the high post, 17 feet, like the mid post and 17 feet away from the basket, and just kind of letting him square up, face up, and make a move. And since he's such a good passer and he's such a good playmaker and he can read the floor, it's a little bit of a similar situation to what Loyola does with Cam Krutwig. Now, the difference is that a lot of what Robinson Earl does is more being aggressive and playing off the dribble, and that's not going to work against Vital. It's just not. Like, he's not going to be able to get around. Mark Vital stays in front of point guards. He's going to be able to keep JRE in front of him. Yes. And he's also he's so strong. Like, I just don't think that JRE is going to be able to back him down because of how high his center of gravity is. So I think that Mark Vital is just it's the worst possible one-on-one matchup for JRE that's left in this tournament. And if Villanova is not able to run the offense through JRE, I just don't know where the creative outlet's going to be. And I mean, look, you're probably going to have Davion Mitchell and Justin Moore. Like, what is he going to be able to do with Justin Moore on him? You're probably going to end up having like Jared Butler on Caleb Daniels. What's Caleb Daniels going to be able to do with Jared Butler on him? So there's just difficult matchups everywhere on the floor for Villanova. I don't know where the offense is going to come from. I will say this though, the one thing that makes me a little bit hesitant to go all in on Baylor in this spot is that I fully expect Villanova to turn this into a 60-possession game. And if this is a 60-possession game with a team that shoots a ton of threes, it's very possible that Villanova can shoot 15 for 30 from three in this game, despite how contested those threes could end up being. And I think Jay Wright is smart enough to understand that the way for him to win this game is to embrace the variance, lower number of possessions, and try to find a way to get hot on a night when Baylor isn't hot. And that kind of worries me when the spread is 7.5 points. So that's the reason I was much more confident on this earlier in the week before I kind of thought about it, and the line kind of moved towards Baylor a little bit. So yeah, it is what it is. But I'm not. Don't bet the bank account on Baylor, Andrew. Please don't bet the bank account on Baylor. Yeah, it is what it is. So I think that's all I have. You got anything else on this matchup?
No, I think we've said it. Again, I just think Baylor's defense has gotten better and better and better over the last few weeks, and that's the key for Baylor. Like they also know they beat Villanova last year. It was the beginning of the year. I know the teams are different, but I still think there's something about that, right? The Villanova brand is so strong lately that I'm not saying their teams are intimidated by them, but I think, again, Baylor's not intimidated by anybody. I mean, they believe they're the best team in the country. So, yeah, I like Baylor in this one. I think if I'm Baylor, if Chris Arcidiacono's in the game, I'm going after him. I'm going after him.
Yeah. All right. What's next? We have
Oral
Roberts in Arkansas. Arkansas is laying at 11.5. The total there is 157.5. What do you like there?
Oh boy. I want to say like the money line for Oral Roberts. I really do. I want to just say like maybe these dudes are that good. Maybe Asmus and O'Banner are that good that they can beat Arkansas. Like, is Arkansas that good, Rob? Like, they're good. They're good. Don't get me wrong. They're a good team. But like maybe this is just like the ultimate Cinderella story right now. But I don't think I can go that route. I think I'll take the points. I'll take the points and hope that Oral Roberts can kind of stick with them. But I don't have this is not the one I have a strong feeling on at all today, at all.
I think that Arkansas is the play here. I think that their athleticism can kind of overwhelm Oral Roberts. And I've made this point before. But what Oral Roberts wants to do offensively is basically spread you out, put shooters in the corners and on the wings, and run like these high ball screens that are 35 feet away from the basket and kind of force you to play 2-on-2 with Max Asmus and Kevin O'Banner. And that works when you go up against a team like Ohio State that is really, really bad defending ball screens. And that works when you go up against a Florida team that needs to have Colin Castleton on the floor. I don't know if it works against an Arkansas team that's going to play Justin Smith at the 5. And Justin Smith, I think, can be effective in ball screens. So I think that Arkansas is the play. I think this is the worst matchup for Oral Roberts. I will say this, though. Arkansas has shown a tendency all season long to get off to really slow starts. So while I will be on Arkansas from the start, one thing that I am going to look for is when if Oral Roberts can get out to like a 10-2 lead or something like that, is to jump on an Arkansas live line, because that's something that has been very profitable so far this week. You got any take on the total there? It's 157.5. Not really.
I don't. I mean, again, this is the one game I feel the worst about. Like with my heart, I'm going with Oral Roberts, but I don't have a good feel on it.
All right. Next up, we have 6.5. The total there is 141 against Syracuse. What do you like there?
The Fighting Boeheims. I mean, how can you go against Jim and Buddy? Like, how do you go against Buddy Buckets? You can't. You can't. Like, I get it. Like Syracuse, Houston, they're so good on the glass. They're tough. They're hard. We know they're tougher. I have a hard time betting against Syracuse. I like the points. I kind of like the plus 230 on the money line too. So I'm going to go Cuse and say that Buddy Buckets is going to, like, straight up talent, Rob. Do you think there's any difference between these two teams? Talent, just talent. Syracuse probably has more.
I think that Houston probably is a little bit more talented. As much as I like Buddy Boeheim and Joe Girard, like, are you going to tell me that you think those guys are more talented than the Houston guards? I don't know. Buddy Boeheim is very, very good at what he does, and he's a very, very good shooter.
Girard is the key for me in this game. Like, if Joe Girard has one of those 1-for-11 games with like 6 turnovers, then
they're in trouble.
Like, he's got to be able to handle their toughness.
So there's 2 reasons why I don't love Syracuse in this spot. The first is that Houston has seen zone before. There's a couple teams in the American that play zone, and they rank 70th in the 70th percentile nationally in points per possession against the zone defense. To put that into context, when we were all in on West Virginia ranks in the 15th percentile nationally against zone defenses. So I think that Houston will be more prepared and more used to playing against the zone than West Virginia was. The other part of it is that Houston is the second best offensive rebounding team in college football. They get 39% of their misses. Syracuse is the worst defensive rebounding team in the NCAA tournament. Out of the field of 68. They were the worst. And that's just a very, very difficult matchup for anybody. And so I think that Houston, for me, is probably going to be the play, but I really don't have a great feel on this one. The only action I have on them right now is a money line parlay involving Houston. And I don't know if I'm going to do more than that.
Yeah, I like the other thing I probably like here is the under 141. I'll go under. I'll go Cuse, and just say that, you know what, it's going to come down to we haven't had a buzzer beater. We still haven't had a true buzzer beater. We haven't had a lot of close games in that last second round day. There weren't a lot of close games, so I think maybe you're going to get a few of those today. I'm going to bet that Syracuse-Houston is one of those, and even if Houston wins, it comes down to the end and Syracuse covers, and I think it's a low-scoring game.
Yeah, I agree. You got anything else?
Not in that game. Let's move to Creighton Gonzaga. I got to get. Listen, after this, I got to get showered.
Why are we doing Creighton Gonzaga today?
We'll do it tomorrow. All right, because we're going to break down. That's fine. We can break down today's games and spend some time on tomorrow's games. That's fine. We'll do that. Good call. Good call, Bobby.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk.